You know, our last speaker, digital health specialist, his company Mindgram is a European SaaS B2B platform providing integrated support for employees in the well-being sphere. Maybe that's why he entitled his presentation The Most Common Problems and Crises in Startups and How to Deal with Them. Please welcome Jakub Zieliński, CEO and co-founder at Mindgram.
So, hello everybody. You know, it's like last presentation of the day, so I don't know if it's good or bad. I will try to keep it short. So, maybe first, besides that, I'm an entrepreneur. Mindgram is my seventh company. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and from my experience, I know how it's difficult, to run a startup, and how many challenges you have over the time, and I want to share this experience. The current company I'm running, Mindgram, is the company that specializes in this topic, in the mental health and well-being of the employees. We work with the like 60 companies in Poland at the moment and around 10 in Spain to provide for the employees mental health support and well-being support. We cover over 50,000 employees in these companies. So I will as well, and my presentation today, going through these crises, problems, and how to approach them, that's going to be from my perspective. So I will share my perspective, some people can have different. And I will focus a little bit as well on the different, topics. Because like usually when we think about the challenges in the startups, plenty of them, we talk about finding product market fit, financing. I will tell more about this, from this, personal perspective, like your mind, your well-being, not only for the founders but as well for the employees. So, usually the plan of the startups looks like that, like a straight way, and there is a dentist, a goal to sell the company, to make millions, but reality is like that. And I haven't seen a startup that wasn't experienced, such a rough way. And sometimes, this path ends, in the middle, because most of the companies, got bankrupt, the early stage companies. So as well, my experience, is like that, that it's super difficult, it's very unpredictable. And first of all, startups are like really overwhelming because you have so many roles. You have to get the financing of your company. You have to get the team, which is very difficult. You have to find the product market fit. That is like a basis for existence of your company long term. Then you have to scale it and sometimes do this again because you have to go through another financing round. So there's plenty of things, and you have super limited resources. And that is like really overwhelming, not only for the founders, but as well for the employees. Alongside with that, you have this emotional roller coaster. This is like very typical, for the, it's like a bipolar, disorder. It's very typical for the startups that 1 month you are like super excited, ecstatic, you've just, raised your financing, or you got your like first customers. Another month you think that this is disaster, that's not gonna survive, the company will bankrupt, nobody wants your product. And this is like very typical for most of the startups, that you from this excitement, and you have this up and downs. And of course this is as well exhausting, but unfortunately this is, like a reality because on this way, to build your great company, you have to go through all of this, problems. Sometimes, even, when you acquire, I don't know, 1 month you acquire 10 customers, 10 big customers. One of them is like a big bank, for example, and you're excited, but then to implement this, to deliver the promise, and usually the startup founders or the startups are over-promising, what they do, it's a huge stress for the organization. Yeah? So even sometimes this too fast grow of the company is super stress for the organization, for the founders, and then you have this, down side and you feel, that you will not make it, or the quality of your delivery to these customers, is poor, and of course that impacts your emotional well-being. Another important factor now as well is that the startup, what is the assets of most of the startups? It's people, yeah. And I think it's always been a problem, but I think now, never like before, we have a problem to attract people, and to keep them in the company, especially in this crazy, insane, and unpredictable, environment. Yeah, everybody is fighting for the best talent, and that's becoming like a huge challenge. And I would say like probably like half of the problems of the startups, some challenges, that as well impacting your well-being, are related to people. Yeah, if you have the right people, if you have a right partner, if you can keep them in the company, can you compensate them? And usually you don't have, sufficient, resources, and market is very, competitive. So how to do this? Most of your like problems comes, from that, and this is, people addressing, the people, it's probably one of the key things, in order to address, this problem. And when you have this team, this team, they have to be like resilient, yeah, for all of these challenges I was talking about. So you have to proactively build this resilience, because nobody is prepared for such a job, and for such a pace and for such unpredictable environment. And as well, especially if there are some founders, here in the audience, especially founders' resilience, and as well alignment between the founders, because all of the startup employees, they suffer, this crazy environment, but founders, they have, I think, a lot on their shoulders, and the reason is because there is, some research, done about, this, and the startup founders, usually suffer, for example, like mental health issues, much more than the typical employees. Yeah, 2 times more risk of depression, 10 times more risk of bipolar disorder, and all of the statistics, are like few times more than the average, like person in the company. For example, there's like several syndromes listed, that are related to the startup founders. One of them I will talk, for example, like this, the I am company syndrome, which means, that when you are so much, dedicated to the company, that you are the company, so every failure of the company, it means your failure. This is how you perceive it. So this is how it is very difficult for you. Yeah. So, and of course, things like founders, it's loss or financial risks. At the end, this is super, super difficult. Yeah, there's like a bunch of statistics, that shows, that startups, this is from the report HR and Hints, I think I will not go through that, but it shows, that in startups especially it's very difficult environment, to work for, and and it negatively affects, your relations and family and friends, the data shows, that it's very tough environment for work. As well, we work a lot in startups, usually average more than in the typical company. From working too much to be burnout is very close connection. Most of the causes of employment burnout, which is now the pandemic of burnout all over the world, is caused by to work too much. Yeah, of course, the pandemic as well has a huge impact, on our health. Yeah. So I will show as well, what have I learned, just very quickly, how to, address, these things, maybe from different perspectives. First of all, this is what helps, to focus and simplify everything that you do. It maybe sounds, easy, but sometimes, it's not, because as a startup, you are finding, new ways. But if you have like one product, one business model, one market, one ideal target customer, and you simplify this what you do, and you spend more time on that, especially early beginning, that helps a lot. Yeah, because dealing with the complexity, with all of these things, that I said before, it's much more, it amplifies all of these, problems. Second, you have to have like a good partners, co-founders. Yeah, my previous companies, now in this company I have two co-founders here, you can see with this our like logo, Adam and Gosia. We are like 3 co-founders. On the beginning you think, okay, I'm diluted, I'm starting my company with 33% ownership, so you have this, doubts. But like before, I was starting from 100%, but it was so difficult. And, and when you are dealing with all of the problems, if you have a partners, it's much, much, much easier. And as well, you have to find the partners that are complementary to each other. Don't find a partner that is exactly like you, yeah, because then it will not up, to this what you want to do. That's super, important. This is what I've learned after, almost 20 years of, running the startups. That from the early beginning, it's good to have a partner, founder of the company, As well, it's important from early beginning to build a strong culture and values early. as well, this is something I've learned in the last company. Usually this is something, okay, let's do this for later. Now we have to focus on the product, on the market, that values, culture is not important. It's super important because then it's like a North Star. You can make a decision, tough decision, personal decisions in the company about like firing, for example, people based on your cultural fit, based on your values. So encourage everybody to do this, from the early beginning. It's kind of like a North Star and your criteria for making decisions as well, and keep everybody in line in the company, and as well give some meaning, for this what you do in the company. And of course, like prioritize well-being and mental health. Especially in this environment, all of the data shows that the startup environment, scale-ups as well, startup scale-ups, sometimes you can have a company that is 5 years old, but it's like startup, which is like a dynamic, growing very fast, And this prioritization of well-being and mental health is very important because, as well from my experience, even if you have money from the investors, you're growing very fast. This is such a difficult job for people. You can put all of the perks, all of the benefits, and still people can get burnout. They cannot stand this this pressure. They cannot work all over the clock 24 hours and 7. So I think the startups not only need like a typical well-being and a well-being strategy. They need super strong well-being strategy for their employees. And they give much more than the market, average in order to address these problems. Yeah, and then I will just make small commercial. We have, this Mindgram for Startups program, because usually we work with the enterprise customers, where we provide the full spectrum of the care for the employees, from prevention, early intervention to, reaction, not only psychotherapy like most of the platform, but as well like, prevention of the mental health, like development, group workshops, and self-care programs, so on. And we have just launched, Monica just launched, the program for startup, when there is like, over 70% of discounts, for the early stage companies, as well, to support them with the solutions. Yeah, so thanks for that. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Where is the round of applause, guys? Thank you. Kuba, you promised personal stories, and then you told us about statistics and so on, so it won't be so easy. You must tell me about your biggest crisis. Tell me the story. Here's the mic. You can use. No, it's this one. This one. This one. This
okay,
one.
This is
yeah,
like, like a priest,
So, your crisis. And
my
your
crisis.
story.
Yeah, I had many of them.
Give me one.
Yeah, I have many of them. One crisis was, because before, my previous company, it was like an incubator. I decided, to launch, incubator. Why to have one company? Let's have 4. And I've launched 4 companies. Next Web Media, Blow Media, Natemat, and Agencja Wise. And and I was the boss of the companies. When these companies were small, that was, good. But when the company started to grow, there was even like a success, then, and suddenly there was like 200 people. Everything was on my head, yeah. And with the scaling, this is why it's alienating, like it was in the presentation. You feel at the end like alone. You have to pay all of the taxes. You have to pay all of this. You have to, get the financing from the investors. And, my personal story was that at this time, it was so much that I almost, got insane. I've lost, my, family. I was divorced, I had some super personal, crisis. And, I suffered a lot for like over 2 years, And I needed, some psychological support. I started psychotherapy, and it took me to get out of this like over 2 years. So this is as well, very difficult personal story. I'm not afraid to talk about this. It's important as well that we share our personal stories, in order to destigmatize, our mental health, problems, because mental health, everyone has it. Yeah, it's like a physical health, everyone has a mental health, everyone is dealing, with the problems, So, yeah, that's my story. I have much more,
Okay, so some of them we will leave for the
But I started with the hard one,
Yeah, so other side of this question is that if you, after this 20 years of experience, still feel the roller coaster, this like a kind of stress, or you are,
a little bit
total
less.
easy.
Like all of this, even like the situation, I had, that builds some kind of resilience in a hard way. Don't recommend it, so there's more resilience, even like comparing to my current partners with the company, you know. If someone goes first time through that, you always are like more fragile, you know, you are more emotional about this, you know, but you don't have to go through this in a hard way. You can as well, you know, like build some habits, good habits, you know, make your well-being priority, get founders from the beginning. So not everything is on your head. So there are some tools based on some, you know, like bad examples probably, you know, in order to address this and to suffer less, because at the end, you will still suffer. I think there's, you know, even, you know, the well-being is a priority, there is not perfect, you know, balance, you know, working for the startup. You always will suffer somehow.
Okay, so...
you can minimize the risk, you know, the losses, I would say.
One more question from the personal, you know, experience. You must give us 3 advices to the founders that are in the audience and online that you really use in your everyday life. 3 to you know, to be well-being the priority and everything that you have on this screen. So 3 practices from your everyday life.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, you know, you have to book the time for this, for your well-being. I have like in my like Google Calendar, when as well like my assistants and other, you know, the rest of the organization has access, and they put a lot of things. I have booked spot every day for fitness and for meditation. Yeah, and I do meditate every day almost, and that helps me a lot. So you have this spot when you are like off, yeah, and you can find, you know, time that this crazy monkey in your head, like the Buddhists say, this is, you know, our thoughts and all of that.
And it's like each day you have this time.
Yeah,
okay,
okay.
One,
yeah, exactly.
It was
yeah.
number 1. Number 2.
Number 1, that's number 1. Number 2, you know, you have to as well spend time to educating yourselves in terms of, you know, well-being, you know. And some of the things, you know, we can learn about like emotions, you know, about how to manage stress and so on. So, and sometimes as well could be coaching, because many of the problems as well come from that we have some not sufficient competencies or experience to manage, you know, very fast growing team. Yeah, we haven't been born, you know, everybody, you know, from this. When your company is growing fast, or you have to, you know, go international, we don't have experience. So we just use the, you know, resources like the coaches, some other founders, you know, to help you with that, and that will reduce as well your stress. So
and you also book the time for the education, like
sure, yes, exactly. Yeah,
everything, you know, scheduled.
Like every once a week, I try to participate in some like a webinar about the stress management, you know, about the, you know, how to communicate, how to better work from home, how to, you know, communicate better with your children, family, how to talk, for example, you know, with your child, you know, about the war. This kind of stuff. You have to take care. I would say the third one is as well take care as well, make as well that take care about the well-being of your family. Yeah, because if you are okay, but your family is not okay, you will be not as well okay, and your companies will be not okay. We are in the system with the company, with the that we work for as founders or even as well as employees, but as well our families with the system. So we have to care about the whole system, you know, in order to address that.
Okay, 3 is like. Do you have some other?
I have many more, but
4
maybe,
and 5. Okay,
I have many more, but maybe we can do this, you know, during.
Okay, during the networking,
exactly.
Guys. Please, thanks. Jakub Zieliński, CEO and co-founder at Mindgram. Thank you very much.